Hello everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Amitabh, a DevOps engineer and AWS community builder in a containers category. In this video, we are going to learn Argo CD in one shot. So this will be the one shot series of Argo CD where we will cover what is a Argo CD, what is a GitOps and the principle of Argo CD, the workflows, and we will understand the architecture of Argo CD, and we will also cover the Argo CD concepts like application, project, repository, health status, rollback, and a lot more. And we will also see how we can install and set up Argo CD in a kind cluster, and we will later on deploy our application on Argo CD via the UI, CLI, and the declarative approach. And there will be a lot more concept in this series, like we will see Argo CD features like a sync, waves, and hooks, and health status. And we will also cover the Argo CD notification, image updater, and how we'll monitor the Argo CD. That will be also covered in this video. And we will also cover security using the RBAC and scaling. And we will also see how we can set up a single sign-in on using the GitHub. And we will also cover the Argo projects like a rollout of workflows and events. And we will also see how we can enable HTTPS for the Argo CD. So without any delay, let's get started. So what is GitOps and Argo CD? Let's understand the GitOps first. So GitOps is a framework where Git acts as a single source of a truth, and it also takes the DevOps best practices like a version control, collaboration, compliance, CI/CD, and then applies them to infrastructure automation. Means Git act as a single source of a truth where you define the desired state of your application infrastructure, and instead of running imperative commands line by line, so you just push the changes to the Git. Rest is happens inside the GitOps principles, and this means every changes is versioned in Git repository, auditable, and a reversible. Like you can easily roll back to the previous version of your application. So the code for the GitOps is if it is not in a Git, it doesn't exist. Very simple line. If it is not in a Git repository, it doesn't exist. So it works as a like a Git is a single source of truth. Whatever in a Git, it is going to create like that only, not other than that. And means developer pushes the changes to the GitHub repository and it will deploy it to your Kubernetes cluster. And let's understand what is Argo CD. Argo CD is a declarative GitOps continuous delivery tool for the Kubernetes CNCF graduated project. So Argo have several projects like a rollout and workflow events and lot more. And the Argo CD follows the declarative configuration, means define what you want, not how to get there. So you write the manifest for your application and infrastructure inside your Git repository, and Argo CD detects it and apply into your Kubernetes cluster. And it also provides the automated sync. So if you changes inside your Git repository, and it will have the Argo CD controller that continuously monitor your Git repository and apply to your Kubernetes clusters to have the latest application. So it has the rich UI and a CLI. So you will see there is a clean UI and CLI for the Argo CD. We will see in the later of this video. And in Argo CD, you can manage multiple Kubernetes clusters. So you can simply create multiple cluster and add into your Argo CD, and we will see how we can do that also. And it also provides the security using the RBAC, and you can simply define the rollback access control for your organization and a group. And even we can set up a single sign-in on, so you can use the OIDC and GitHub. So you will provide the sign-in with the GitHub, and we will see also in this video an instant rollback, like it has a Git, so you can easily roll back. There is a feature in the Argo CD, you can simply roll back to the previous version of your application using the Git commit. And the four core principle of the Argo CD is the declarative. As we know, whatever we define inside the Git, it is going to deploy that the same. So if your Kubernetes manifest mention that we are going to have the four replica, so it will going to have that four replica only. And if someone deleted that, it will going to detect the drift and automatically recover that replica. As it is a declarative, so there is no need to write imperative command. So whatever you want, you will define inside the Git repository, inside your manifest. And the second is immutable and the version. So as we are using the Git, so it will going to have the version, and we will track easily the application version history. So every change is audited and nothing can be silently altered. So it is continuously monitor your Argo CD to detect any changes inside the Git repository. And Argo CD works on the pull based mechanism, means whatever happens inside your Git repository. So there is a controller inside the Argo CD that automatically pull the desired state of your application. Suppose you have mentioned the replica 5 from the 4, so it will detect it and deploy it and pull the changes from your Git repository and deploy inside your application. So this works as a CI/CD kind of thing, and this work as a pull based mechanism which is automatically done. And we have the continuous reconcile, as it is a continuous delivery tool. So it will continuously monitor your Git repository and detect it and deploy your desired state of your application with a continuous drift detection. So as if we delete the replicas defined in the manifest, suppose there is a 4 replica, and if you delete the 2 replicas inside your Kubernetes cluster, so it will detect the drift and heal your Kubernetes cluster with a defined desired state in your GitHub repository. So this is the core principle of your Argo CD, which are kind of a similar things. And the next, how the Argo CD works, the workflow of Argo CD from code commit to running the deployment. So developer pushes the code inside your Git repository. So CI pipeline runs the build, tag images, and it will run the test of the Docker images. So config repo gets updated. So CI once the updated, your bot, it will push the commit changes like the CI is completed. So Argo CD detects the drift. So has Argo CD controller, so it will detect the changes inside your Git repository. So it will detect it, and Argo CD will sync to the cluster. Like if the replica is changes to 5 to 6, so it will deploy it using the Argo CD controller. So that monitor your Git repository, and it will deploy to your cluster with the updated Git desired state. So it has the health check and status check inside your Argo CD. It has the health check degraded, healthy, and lot more. So we can easily roll back if the application is degraded in the newest commit. And the key concept of Argo CD is the application. So this is a core Argo CD custom resource. You an application define the source, which is a Git repository path of your Kubernetes manifest, and the destination, which is a which Kubernetes cluster to deploy, and in which namespace of the Kubernetes for your deployment. And the app project is a grouping mechanism for applications, like project restrict which repo and cluster an app can use, enabling multi-team isolation and governance. Suppose you have multiple projects inside your Argo CD, you can create a project and accordingly isolate your application inside the multiple Argo CD app projects. So we will also see this in this video. And we have the another concept which is a sync. So it automatically sync inside your Kubernetes cluster with the Git repository, as it is a declarative tool that automatically detects via the Argo CD controller with your Git repository. And even we can monitor the health status of our application, like whether the application is healthy, progressing, degraded, and suspended, or a missing thing inside your Argo CD. So we will see that also in this video. And the repository, your Git repository, you can add the multiple repository inside your Argo CD tool. And we have a sync hooks and the sync waves and the application set. So sync hooks, basically we can have the pre-sync, sync, as we learn what is a sync, and the post-sync, pre-sync for the DB migration. If you want to run some previous tag with a before running the main sync, so you can set up that also. And the sync waves, the order of your sync hooks, as we can define using the annotation sync waves, and we have the order as the lower wave number are applied first, so we can define as a lower number if we want to run the hooks as in order. And we have the application set, which is the automated creation of many application from templates. So you can deploy multiple Argo CD application using the list, git, and cluster matrix or generators like this. So you can create apps from multiple environments or clusters dynamically. If you want to deploy same application in multiple clusters, so you can do that also. So we will also see application sets inside this video. And let's understand the difference between GitOps and traditional CI/CD. So Argo CD is a CD tool which is used for the continuous delivery. It complements your CI pipelines rather than replacing it. So once the CI is done, so it will trigger the Argo CD for this continuous delivery and deployment of your application inside your Kubernetes cluster. So it uses the pull-based model. As we have already seen, there is a controller inside Argo CD that automatically pulls the changes from the Git repository, and the credentials are inside the cluster as there is no risk, and the diff detection as they have the continuous monitoring with the Argo CD controller that will detect the drift changes in the Git repository and automatically heal that. So in traditional CI/CD, there is no detection after deployment. And the rollback, so there is a very easy rollback feature inside the Argo CD. And in traditional CI/CD, there is we have to rerun the pipeline with old tag, and we have the audit trail. We can easily have the audit log using the Git history. In traditional CI/CD, we have to search inside the CI logs, and the source of a truth, there is a single source of truth is Git repository. And inside the traditional CI/CD, we have to running the cluster state. We have to check the cluster state inside the CI/CD. But in GitOps, we have the single source of truth. Whatever inside in Git, it is going to happen inside your Kubernetes cluster. And in Argo CD, we can simply set up the multiple Kubernetes cluster. We can deploy thousands of clusters inside Argo CD. And but in traditional CI/CD, so it will very complex inside the traditional CI/CD. But Argo CD natively support this. So this is all about. I think we have covered. So we have covered what is the GitOps, what is the Argo CD, the principal workflow, and let's cover what is the architecture of Argo CD. So this is the architecture of the Argo CD. So this is a Git which is act as a single source of a truth as it is a GitOps based tool. So this is a PR merge and the event webhook. So developer which have the UI and the CLI of your Kubernetes cluster, our Kubernetes cluster. So developer merges the PR. So it has the changes. So it will have the webhook event to the Kubernetes cluster. So developer has the UI and a CLI of your Kubernetes cluster. So we have this Argo CD, Jenkins, and the I think this is a Circle CI. So it has the CI run, so that will run the CI and it will trigger the CD part using the REST API to the Kubernetes cluster. So there is Argo CD, which have the application, hooks, and app action inside our Kubernetes cluster. So Argo CD will deploy our application inside your Kubernetes cluster, whether it is a dev environment staging in multiple region and in multiple group. So we can easily deploy your application using the Argo CD. So this is our Kubernetes cluster, and this is the Argo CD. So CI is completed, it will going to trigger this CD. So Argo CD, we have the notification inside Slack and list of stuff. So it will sync with the Git repository and deploy to your Kubernetes cluster with a latest tag environments and all stuff. So this is the architecture of the Argo CD. If you didn't understand the architecture of the Argo CD, let me know in a comment section. I will drop the specific video for this architecture explanation. So we have covered the application, the app project, repository, health status, a rollback, auto healing, how it heals, and the sync and sync policies. So let's move on how we can install and set up the Argo CD inside our Kubernetes cluster, which is a kind cluster. And let's for that launch the EC2 instance. So we will launch the EC2 instance. So we will select the Ubuntu as our OS, and we will going to select the T2 large as our EC2 instance type, as we have to complete this one shot series in a single EC2 instance. And we will select the key pair that we have created. You can create a new key pair according to you, and we will allow this, and we will have the storage of 30 GB. So I will launch the EC2 instance. So once the EC2 instance is launched, we will going to install the prerequisite that is required to set up the Argo CD inside your EC2 instance with the kind cluster. So let's wait to be active or running. So our EC2 instance is running. Now we will connect using the key pair that we have. So we will SSH into that EC2 instance. So you can see we are connecting to our EC2 instance using the SSH. Now we will going to install the prerequisite. So let's update first the system, and later on we will install the Docker. So I will provide the repository link inside the description of this video so you can follow that. So now we will add the current user inside the Docker group so that we can access the Docker as you can see. And now we will install the kubectl. So we will copy paste the commands. You can follow the official website, search about it, and let's remove it. So now we have the kubectl installed. If we check, so we have the kubectl, and now we will install the kind inside our EC2 instance, as we are going to set up the Argo CD inside the kind cluster. As you can also try, if I do inside the EKS cluster, so that is going to be create a build for us. So I use the kind so that you can also try. So let's check the kind version. Yes, the kind is installed inside our EC2 instance. And let's install the Helm. So we will use the Helm to install the Argo CD. So for that, we have to install the Helm first. So let's install it. So you can see Helm is also installed. So if we check the version, so Helm is installed inside our EC2 instance. Now we have to clone the repository. So this repository I will provide inside the description. So let's clone it, and we will go inside the directory. So this is the repository that we have. So now we will going to install the Argo CD. So for that I have created a shell script. So let's understand that shell script. So we have declared the set hyphen e, which is the exit on error, and we have several variable declared like a cluster name as Argo CD, kind config file, and the name of the namespace, which is Argo CD, and this is a kind config that we are creating. So this is a cluster, which is a kind, and the API version is this. And for the networking, as we have to add the Kubernetes cluster inside Argo CD using the kind cluster, so this step is needed for the cloud provider. This step is not needed. You can simply have the these steps. So this is completely for the Kubernetes kind cluster, not the other clusters. So let's have this the kind cluster config, which is have the control plane and the two workers, and it will create the Kubernetes clusters. If the cluster does not exist, so it will create the kind cluster with the name of that we have declared inside the variable, and which is have the config, which is this. And later on, once the Kubernetes cluster is ready, it will going to ask which method you want to use to install the Argo CD. In this shell script, I have defined the Helm version and the manifest. We will going to install the Argo CD using the Helm version as it is a production, and the customization is very easy inside that. And manifest, you can use it. So for one, we will use the Helm, and for the choice of two, it will deploy the Argo CD using the manifest, which is a official manifest of the Argo CD installation. And later on, it will create the Argo CD namespace, and so it will ask one or two, which is a method one or method two. So we will select the method one to install the Argo CD using Helm. You can select the method two also. If the choice is one, it will choose the function install Helm, and if the choice is 2, it will choose the function install manifest. So this is the two method, you can use one. And this is the checking of the Argo CD CLI is installed or not. If it is not installed, so it will install using these commands, and it will install it for us. And once the Argo CD is ready, it will show us the pod and services running inside Argo CD. And this is the fetching of the admin password for the login inside the Argo CD. So we will see that password also. And this is the echo part, which will provide the next step for us. So we will port forward the Argo CD server to access it, as it is a kind cluster. So we have the cluster inside a Docker, which is a Kubernetes inside Docker. So we will have the steps for to forward it and log in inside using the password as we are getting here. We are also getting the CLI command to log in inside the Argo CD CLI. So let's apply this shell script. So for that, we are going inside our repository that we have. So in this step, I have mentioned that we have to update the API server. So let's copy the private IP of that EC2 instance. So this is the private IP, and we will open the kind Argo CD setup, and we will update that. So let's update it, as this is a very important step for the networking. If you do not do this step in the kind clusters, so you cannot add the Kubernetes cluster inside your Argo CD. So this is a very key step, and this is the API server port that is needed, and so that it can communicate. So I will paste the private IP and will save this, and later on we will change the execute mode. It have the execute permission, and now I will run this. So we have installed the prerequisite, and later on we will simply run the script. So it will create a Kubernetes cluster, name of Argo CD cluster, and it will use the image that we have defined inside our Argo CD setup. So this will apply the manifest and create a Kubernetes cluster for us, and it will ask us to whether to deploy Argo CD using the method 1 or the method 2. So let's wait for that. So you can see it is asking us the method that you wanted to install the Argo CD. So I will use the method 1. So it will install the Argo CD using the Helm. Now it will install the Argo CD CLI also for us. So Argo CD UI and a CLI is a different thing. You have to install isolated for both of thing and log in inside it. So you can see the Argo CD cluster is running, and now we have the steps that we have to perform. So this is the password that we have. This is the initial password to log in inside our Argo CD. For now, we have to first forward the Argo CD service that is going to run on a port 8080, which have the container port 443, and the address is this to access via the internet. So this is not needed inside the cloud Kubernetes clusters. This is only for the like a kind cluster. So I will forward it, and now we will open the security port inside our EC2 instance security group, and we will add the inbound rule for port 8080 where our Argo CD is going to run. So I will allow anywhere, and it's will going to have the Argo CD, and I will save this. And now I will copy the EC2 instance public IP and open the new tab and write http colon slash slash the IP and the port 8080. As you can see, we are running on the HTTP, not HTTPS. So in this video, we will also see how we can enable this as a HTTPS. So wait for that. And now we will continue the Argo CD site, and as it is not as HTTPS, so it has some warning. So now we have the username as admin, which is the initial username, and now we have the password that we have copied previously. So this is the password, and we will log in inside our Argo CD application. And now the first step is to update the password. Whenever you log in inside your Argo CD, the first step should be how you can change the password, initial password for your Argo CD, so that later on you cannot forget that password. So let's update that password. So this is our current password, and I will write a new password as test at the rate 123, and we will confirm it, test at the rate 123. So this will save your time uh, while running the same command to get the initial password. So it will ask us to again log in. So username will be the same, admin, and the password will be test at the rate 123. So this is how you can update the password inside your Argo CD. And the next step is to log in using the Argo CD CLI. So this will be the step, Argo CD login, and we have changed the password. So we have updated. We have to update it as test at the rate 123. So by logging into the CLI, you can access the Argo CD via the terminal. So you don't have to go to your Argo CD UI every time. So this is the Argo CD UI, and we are logging into the Argo CD CLI. And this is the easy to instance public IP, and the username is admin, and we can simply hit enter, and it will update it, and we can check it via the command like Argo CD account get user info. So it will allow us to check whether the Argo CD CLI is configured or not. So Argo CD CLI is successfully logged. So this is error which is very common inside the kind cluster. So ignore it. So it will, you will not see this in the cloud provider Kubernetes cluster. So now we have the Kubernetes cluster, which is the, you can see kind get clusters. We have the Argo CD clusters running, and we also have the kubectl get pod in namespace Argo CD. So this is the pod inside our Argo CD namespace. And now we will see how we can add that Kubernetes cluster inside our Argo CD. As if we go to the setting inside Argo CD, you can see we have the default cluster that is automatically provided by the Argo CD inside it. So how we can add a custom cluster, sir? So for that, we will follow this guide. So we have to first log in into CLI that we have done, and we will get the context that will provide us running Kubernetes cluster. So kubectl config get context, which is the current cluster, is the kind Argo CD cluster. So now we have to add this cluster inside Argo CD. So you use this command Argo CD, which is a cluster, and we have to add this cluster, and it will be having the custom name as the Argo CD cluster. Insecure is like we are not using the HTTPS, that is for the insecure is. So later on, if you have the HTTPS, you can remove that command. So let's copy this command, and we will paste here, and we will check the name is same. So the name is same. It will ask us to allow yes or no, and it will add our Kubernetes cluster inside that Argo CD. So if I go to Argo CD UI and I refresh this page, you will see new cluster added as the Argo CD inside our Argo CD UI. So this is how you can add multiple Kubernetes cluster inside your Argo CD. So it has a key feature like a multi-cluster support inside Argo CD. So I hope you understand how you can do that. And the connection status is unknown because there is no application running inside this Kubernetes cluster or Argo CD cluster. So when we deploy the application, as you can see, manage your application and diagnose health problems for your application. So it will going to be active or healthy. So this is the temporary thing. Now you understand what is a GitOps, what is Argo CD, the principle, workflow, how it works, and architecture of it. We have also covered the key concept like what is application, a project, a repository, what is, and let's see how we can add the repository also. In setting, you have to go to the repository, and you can click on connect repo, and you can select the HTTP and HTTPS. So we will use the project default. You can create a custom project also, and we will provide the repository URL as this will be repository URL. Okay. And if you have the private repository, provide the username and the password. If it is a public, that is no need of providing that. So you can see this is how you can connect the repository also. So there is a way to connect the repository via CLI also. So this is the completely UI part in this video, and later on we will cover the CLI also. So this is how you can add the repository. Now we have covered the repository, health status, degraded, and healthy, and the missing. So we have also seen the rollback, and what is the rollback, and auto healing, and sync policies. And you can simply search what is the sync policy for the sync policy in Argo CD. If you want to learn something, you can simply search about it. So we have the core sync policy as a manual sync policy, and the automated sync policy. Manual, you simply go to the application, you will see sync app, so you will sync by here. And there is a creating application. If we create application, so there is a sync policy, automatic and manually. So you can select automatic if you want to provide the complete GitOps. So it will automatically detects your changes, detection inside your Git repository, and apply it automatically. You don't need to click on sync application. So this is the key sync policies, and you know what is a sync. And we have also seen how to install and set up Argo CD inside our Kubernetes kind cluster. And that's all for this video. I hope you understand the whole concept of this Argo CD. And later on, we will see how we can deploy application via UI, CLI, and a declarative approach, and the lot more concepts like we have seen initially, like Argo CD image updater, and the concepts like notification, image updater, and monitoring of Argo CD, and lot more we will cover in this series of Argo CD one shot. So for now, if you want to use the same EC2 instance in the later concept inside this video, you can simply go to your EC2 instance and pause the EC2 instance as stop it, so that you can use the same EC2 instance. And I'm going to use the same EC2 instance in the series of the Argo CD. So I hope this makes sense for you, and you don't need to create multiple EC2 instances in multiple upcoming videos for Argo CD. Use the same EC2 instance, and I'm going to use the same EC2 instance. In the upcoming video will be on how we can deploy our application. So that's all for this video. मिलते हैं next video में, तब तक के लिए जय हिंद, bye.